Prime Minister, thank you so much for giving us time. Let me start with asking you, how much of effort and time did it take from your people, from your government, to convince the United States and its lawmakers to get this bill done?
Now, this Tibet Resolve Act is a significant law once President Biden signs it into an act in the next few days, because this act talks about China's disinformation on Tibetan history. After I came into this office, we decided to change our strategy a little bit, even though we are committed to the middle way policy of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, trying to seek a non-violent, negotiated, mutually beneficial, lasting solution to the Sino-Tibet conflict. But if there is no recognition to the polarities, when we talk about middle way, there is a middle way only if there are polarities. In this case, it could be multidimensional polarities, but in the political sense, one polarity is the situation of Tibet right now under the repressive communist government, and the other polarity is the historical status of Tibet as an independent state. So we have not been just doing the talk, but we have been working very closely with the US Congress since June 2022, where we had the first hearing or testimony on the historical status of Tibet in the US Congress for the first time.
On the ground, as the leader of the Tibetan people and the government of Tibet-in-exile, how much of a difference does this make? How much does your life change or your work change with this bill being passed and President Biden likely to, clear it as law?
For China, sovereignty is a major issue. And that is also the reason why we thought we addressed that major concern when His Holiness proposed the middle way. So by focusing on the historical status, it's more like we are trying to wrestle with China by holding their horns. So this will be a new dimension to our struggle. This will be a new tool in our hands to reach out to other governments and see whether they can take similar position as the United States, and which would force China to come and negotiate with us.
Prime Minister, there were some reports that your government was in some kind of back-channel talks. Can you give us an understanding? When did that start? Where is it now? And what do you expect out of it?
Well, there was some outreach since January last year, so it has already been 1.5 years already. But there's nothing concrete to talk about. It's just interlocutor that I have appointed, and there are interlocutors from Beijing side, and we just relay messages to each other. If you look at what President Xi Jinping is doing to the whole of China, and more particularly the nationality regions like Tibet or East Turkestan or Mongolia, and more so in Hong Kong, it doesn't look very likely that we can have too much expectations out of these things. The first thing would be to re-establish contact. Even that has, in the last 1.5 years, we have not been able to do that. So it's still stuck there based on some of their thinkings and how we perceive our things. So there is nothing concrete to talk about. And we don't have too much expectations if you look at what Xi Jinping is doing. But again, if you ask me, when you don't have expectation while you're still dealing with China, we can't think only short term. We have to think long term. We travel around the world, speak with governments, and they assure us that there are a lot of diversification going on, there are a lot of de-risking going on, but not so much visible right now because decoupling is almost impossible because some countries have a lot of investment in China. But eventually, I think it should take its shape. And as we travel around the world, now more and more people want to understand China for what it is. And we have lived with China for centuries as neighbors. And we know that China respects only strength, not weakness. So we ask people or countries to stand up for their values of freedom and human dignity and democracy and all those things, which they so cherish in their own countries, which is taken for granted, that is not there in China.